Hello and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we are going to be taking a look at the wild and crazy world of Borderlands. Today, the Movie Pope is going to take you to the planet of Pandora, where we're going to see what kind of mischief is going on with Lilith, Roland, Krieg, and Tina. But before we dive in, remember to like, comments, subscribe, and let us know down in the comments below what you think. And let's go ahead and dive in. So, Lee, this is what, like the second movie or TV show that's based on a video game that we've reviewed so far this year?
I would say at least, right? Because we talked about Fallout, which, by the way, thoroughly enjoyed that. Great TV series. Would absolutely tell people to go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
This one, well, have a little bit of a different opinion about this one. So now, Luca, just out of curiosity, right? How much experience do you have with like the Borderlands games, right? Because this is obviously, based upon a popular gaming franchise, just like Fallout. What's your experience with the Borderlands games?
I'm not too familiar with Borderlands as much as I am with Fallout. I've never really played any of the games, and honestly, I really didn't, read much into it until I had to watch the movie. But
I apologize, by the way.
But even then, aside from the fact that you and I are both ignorant in the franchise, it is, pretty well known among the gaming community.
Oh no, I've played all the Borderlands games. I'm very familiar with Borderlands.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. I'm familiar. I'm absolutely familiar with it. Right, I've played quite a few in the franchise. I don't know if I played them all, but I would say it is a very fun gaming franchise. Right,
it's got a bit of a Mad Max vibe to it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I find it unfortunate that this is how people get introduced to Borderlands if they've never played any of the games. Because I have a feeling that if you watch this movie, it's not going to really make you want to play the games.
It doesn't do it justice, in other words, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. It definitely does not, because I got the feeling, and this is right from the onset of this movie, that this movie, it almost felt like it was embarrassed of itself, because it just felt like they wanted to rush through everything, and it absolutely felt like there was probably a whole bunch of stuff that was cut to make this into, really, it was just under like an hour and 40 minutes. Like, this is a very, very quick film. And I think I see why, right? Because really, like, it just like rushes from one thing to the next in quick succession. So you're opening, you kind of get this like kind of voiceover work where we learn about this alien race called the Iridians, right? And there's like some type of vault that people are trying to access, and you need these keys in order to get to the vault. So you have a whole bunch of people on this planet Pandora that are trying to get there, right? They're called vault hunters. So you have that going on. And then once that explanation's over, they're like, okay, well, now we just need to get to the characters, right? So you meet Roland, who, like, once again, is just, I get tired of the short jokes, right? Like, how many times can we possibly have the same short jokes over and over again? But here we are. So we got Roland, we have Tiny Tina, and then we have the character Krieg, and they're all trying to, break out of the ship. And before you know it, that part's done, and we get to meet Lilith, right? Who I guess I would describe is the main character, right? Played by Cate Blanchett, right? And we get to meet Lilith, and this quote I felt like was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because I honestly felt like maybe people are thinking this. Liv had a quote that said, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
I'm getting too old for this shit.
And the only thing I could say was, yes, you are. Because, no offense at all to Cate Blanchett, she's a fantastic actress. I just don't know how I see her in this action role. So I guess without like spoiling getting too much of the story, what do you think about Cate Blanchett and her, role as being kind of the main, our protagonist?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they even got Cate Blanchett, to do this at all. Really, I thought I thought after a while she was like, yeah, I appreciate it, but I'm just getting on, and I'd rather not, be doing these movies. Honestly, I thought they would have gotten someone more like more like one of those younger actors like Millie Bobby Brown or Sydney Sweeney
Yes.
or someone like that. Because just because when you think of
Okay,
Lilith,
let's just say Millie Bobby Brown. We'll forget about the other one you suggested. But yeah, go ahead.
but I mean, like when you look at a character like Lilith, I mean,
Yes.
she's a lot younger anyway, right?
Yes. Yes.
So as great as an actress as Cate Blanchett is, it's like, well, that's it's not quite what I had in mind. It's kind of
Yes.
like it's kind of like with The Witcher. You have this idea of who Yennefer needs to be, and then you see the actress playing Yennefer, and you're like, okay, that's clearly not what you know a lot of us had in mind. But all right, well, I guess we'll roll with it.
Yes.
But but for the most part, it's very much kind of. I mean, everything just seems a bit tongue in cheek. It's like I kind of get the feeling that they know it's a bad movie. They're being very meta about it, and they're kind of putting their cards on the table and just saying, "Yeah, we know it's a bad movie, but hey, I mean, I mean, you paid the $30 for the ticket or whatever, so you're stuck on this ride for the next hour and 40 minutes."
Yep. We'll try to get you out as quick as we can because
And we're gonna rush through
everything.
everything just
Yes.
just to do that. So
Yeah, it was just like bing, bang, boom. Everything just kind of happens. So you meet Lilith, right? So Lilith gets hired by this character Atlas, right? To save or rescue his daughter Tina, right? So that's what kind of gets Lilith to go to Pandora, right? So now we've met all the characters, so now we're gonna go to Pandora. Pandora is where we meet the character Claptrap. Now, Luca, since you don't know the game, right? I'm very curious. What was your feelings about Claptrap?
he's a pile of shit, literally. I mean, I mean, seriously, like as the movie progresses, I keep thinking this is where they finally get tired of Claptrap, and this is where they kill him. This is where they're going to get rid of him. But no, I guess their tolerance for him must be pretty high because they keep bringing him along for all of these things. Um, Not to mention too, like he's responsible for getting the group into trouble. More than
That's
on
true.
more than one occasion.
That
Can I
is
also
true.
can I also just say that joke about being the scumbag vault hunter? It got really really old really quickly. Like
Yes, it almost.
they kept bringing it up over and over again. I'm like, okay, yeah, she's not a vault hunter. Yeah, I get it. You don't need to keep bringing that up.
Yeah. And it's interesting for me when I think about Claptrap, right? I mean, he's fun in the games in small doses, right? Like that's always been, he's definitely a very iconic character within that universe, right?
He's kind of like that robot in Fallout. Was it Cogsworth? That floating robot who clips the
Sure, yeah,
hedges.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. He's tolerable if you don't see him that often, right?
Yes, yes. And in this, like, I felt like, and I honestly want to say they made him purposely annoying, so this way he could be a punching bag throughout the whole thing. Because that's pretty much what he's there for, is just to abuse people, is to be abused. And that's how I felt like the whole time. So they're like, hey, let's just make him super obnoxious, so this way we can all laugh at it, because we all want to just, shoot at Claptrap the whole time. So, but yeah, so we get to be Claptrap, and, Claptrap is able to kind of I guess use the network to help find Tina, and we get to kind of experience a little bit of Pandora. And I have to admit this, and I think this is one of my biggest gripes against the film. Pandora is just boring. Like it is just nothing but like deserts and like these like dumps that are everywhere. There's like maybe like one time we see like a big city, but you never really get to experience the city, right? You just kind of see like two really small parts of it, and that's just how everything is. Like it's just boring to look at. What did you feel about the world they try to create here on Pandora?
I mean, because the movie was directed by Eli Roth, so
Yes.
part of me kind of wonders if Eli Roth, had any familiarity with the franchise before he got involved in it. Do you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I have no idea. I probably would have been good for us to research, but
Because I
we
mean,
are.
because I mean, like when you're watching it, you kind of get the feeling that if the director was in the know, or if he at least familiarized himself with the franchise, it wouldn't look like Tatooine. I mean, for God's sakes, Tatooine, is a far more interesting place than Pandora, really. Um,
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot. And I kind of feel like and I kind of feel like here it's like, well, I mean, let's just copy and paste a bunch of different planet landscapes and stick it on there, and people will be none the wiser. So like guys who are uninitiated such as myself, we won't notice the difference, but the diehard fans will probably ripping their hair out of their heads and just throwing fits, like which is something you do sometimes. um
yes.
so so it's one of those things where it's like you can almost tell just how knowledgeable the director is by the way they kind of approach something like that. It's like it's like with with Fallout, Jonathan Nolan, is a fan of the franchise himself, so he understands what goes into that world and what how the environment needs to look and how the characters need to interact. Where here it's very much I mean, when I'm watching it, it kind of reminded me of Thor Ragnarok in a way, which oddly enough starred Cate Blanchett in that movie as well, because I got vibes of Sakaar the entire time. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
it's just a huge dump everywhere. There's literally trash all over the place. It's just one of those planets where it's like it's like nobody wants to be there, right? Um, and furthermore, I kind of, as I'm watching, I kept thinking to myself, they must have taken bits and pieces from Thor Ragnarok and just stuck it on there and thought nobody's gonna know. Like, like that's what it made me think of as I'm watching this movie. But that's just me.
gotcha. Fair, fair, right? So, but yeah, I would say, like I said, we see Pandora. It's not a whole lot going there. So you got Lilith and Claptrap. They meet up with our other group, right? That's Rolantina and Krieg. So they like kind of combine forces, so to speak. As you have Atlas has like some I guess his army or whatever you want to call it is there, trying to help find all of them. Um, and God, this is like one of those moments where you kind of see like the first action sequence, right? Where Lilith meets Tina, and we kind of get our first action sequence. And I could not help but be distracted by how bad the CGI was. For how much this movie cost to make, the CGI looked pathetic. Did you pick up on that as well, or what were your thoughts about that for some of the CGI sequences?
I mean, I wasn't really focused on the CGI as much as I was thinking the dialogue and the interaction between the characters just feels so inorganic. You know,
That's also true.
I mean,
That's also true.
I mean, and also keep in mind too, it just feels like the characters are kind of forced to come together, in these extenuating circumstances,
Yes.
which makes sense. But at the same time, it's like they could have put a bit more effort into it. But
Agreed. Agreed. Yes, there is a lot of that unfortunately happens with this. So they kind of have like all these characters get together, and they want to help kind of open the vault, right? So we kind of transition from Lilith wanting to rescue Tina as being the main driving force of this. Now we're all a part of the mission to find the vault. So we find out that Tina is like created right from like some Iridian DNA that they happen to have. So they're thinking that Tina is going to be kind of a critical part of finding the vault and be able to access it. So you find out that there's 3 keys total, right? We learned this from we learned this from gosh, what the heck was her name? Tanis, right? So we meet the character Tanis, and we need to find 3 keys, right? So luckily for us, we already have one of the keys. Technically, we have 2, but that's a little bit of a spoiler. So we're really just looking for 1 right now, and that's what we're kind of looking at the moment. So, so we go to this like kind of like corrosive cave type of place where there's I guess a bunch of psychos down there. Psychos being kind of like the name given to a group of people, not like, I mean, I guess they are kind of psychopathic in a way, but that's just what they're called. And they're able to, we have this, fight sequence and everything to find this last key. And we see Roland, our soldier, right? He quote unquote sacrifices himself to save the group. And this is one of those things that always drive me crazy in movies, right? So he sacrifices himself, right? We see the remaining part of the group, right? They're able to teleport away. So we think that this is Tina using her powers to help teleport people. And then as we cut back to the next sequence, we see that Roland survives. And it's just like, why do that, right? Like, why give us the fake out that he's dead and then show us like literally a scene or two afterwards that he's alive? I don't get that at all. Does that ever bother you when you watch movies and they try to fake you out with the character death? It almost just reminds me of like Chewbacca being killed, right, in the new Star Wars films, just to show him like a scene later being alive. Why do movies feel the need to do that? I don't get that, Luca. Help me out.
They just want to tug at the heartstrings.
Yeah, even if it's for very, very brief.
Well, I mean, it also falls flat on its face in this instance because we really don't have enough time to kind of develop an emotional connection with Roland anyway.
Oh yeah, there's
so it's
nothing
like,
there.
Yeah, so like when he does, quote unquote, sacrifice himself, it's like, okay, well, I mean, that's Roland gone, I guess. Instead of you being like, why, God, why? It's like, I mean, it's like that for all of the characters. I mean, even later on when you find out, Lilith's backstory, it's like, okay, well, that's great, I guess. I mean, because because they don't do enough with the characters to kind of make you want to care for them or root for them.
Exactly.
Right?
We're not engaged with any of these people. In all honesty.
I mean, well, that's what you get when you rush through this entire movie. So.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Like it just feels like we're just rushing from one sequence to the next, and we're never really getting any time to show a whole lot in between. So, but yeah, so we have, we have kind of this generic third act split up where somebody oversees something and they're misunderstanding the situation. Because, when you're making a movie, the best way to show any type of conflict is just to have a huge misunderstanding that if normal people just communicated, the issue would be resolved in a few minutes, but it's going to blow everything out of proportion. And this is to your point where we get this Lilith backstory, right? Where we find out that Lilith, has, her mom has been dead for a while. And like we've known about this throughout, but it's not been really important up to this stage. And we find out that, actually, it's not Tina that's the Iridian, right? It's actually Lilith, our redheaded person that sticks out like a sore thumb, even in this crazy universe, is actually Iridian, right? So Tina's group shows up and they're trying to open up the vault, but they can't do it. And you find out that pretty much Tina's father, Atlas, has kind of like set up this trap for everybody. But luckily for everybody, the real hero of this, Lilith, shows up and she's able to like awaken her powers, right? Powers that have been pretty much not defined up to this stage, but we're just going to go ahead and show her having powers all of a sudden. So she's able to like use her power. She can like give people her powers, kind of like in Thor, right? In the last Thor, where Thor's just like, here, you all can get powers now, little kids. Well, that pretty much is what Lilith is capable of doing. So there's this really, boring fight at the end with characters that we barely know against a villain that's been on the screen like maybe for 2 minutes before this. Lilith ends up, Atlas ends up kidnapping Tina and is like forcing Lilith to take them to the vault. the three of them go into the vault, and we don't really see anything in the vault. It's just this dark room with some, crazy monster in it, right? So yeah, that's it. Like I don't even really know what to say about this, because I'm just as lost with the story as what they're trying to do, because it feels like if you don't know about Borderlands prior to this, none of this is going to make sense, right? They're trying so hard to just like thrust you into this role, get you to meet these characters, get you to get to Pandora, be a vault hunter, see all this stuff, and everything is just rushing from one thing to the next. There's never any good character interactions. You keep trying to stuff more and more into this, but you want it all to happen in, like I said, like literally 90 minutes, right? Without credits, right? This is a 90-minute film without credits, right? And that's how fast we're supposed to meet, 5 characters, Tannis, the villain, exploring the world of Pandora. Like, it just all goes by in a blur. And it just was not enjoyable. I just did not like it from beginning to end. I think there was maybe a few times where, like, I think I just kind of had like Stockholm syndrome for Claptrap, where like eventually I was just like laughing out of like just not having anything else to do, because I wasn't enjoying anything else. So I was just listening to Jack Black playing Claptrap, trying to be as crazy and off the wall as possible, because everything else was so dull and boring. I just never had any interest in any of this. So I guess, Luca, just take it away for the ending here. I just don't even know what to say about it.
I mean, honestly, I would probably just give it like a 2 out of 5. Now compared with the last movie that we looked at, The Crow, this one pretty much just puts everything into overdrive and doesn't stop until you get to the end. I will say that I will say this though, like, in spite of the fact that there are just so many plot holes and the interactions between the characters is unrealistic, and we absolutely know next to nothing about characters. I still found it enjoyable. When it came to the violence and the fight scenes and everything. Just because that was really the only thing that kept me awake. Everything else kind of made me nod off a little bit. So that's my score right there.
Okay, I'm gonna give this like a 1.7 out of 5. This to me was just a train wreck from beginning to end. It felt like it just didn't know what it wanted to do. It really didn't have an identity. It felt like they kind of just took some like quick Wikipedia looks at everything, and we're just like, okay, I guess this is it. These are the characters. Let's just try to stuff them in there. We're gonna have this like kind of loose explanation of the vault, and we're just going to be like, yep, this is what we want. We're just going to kind of stuff everything into this, but it doesn't really get time to like just be itself, right? Like everything is just rushed from one thing to the next, and it absolutely felt like it should have done something different. I think you had a different opportunity to maybe focus on less characters, maybe try to get the main characters involved, but I know Tannis is important for the series, but at a certain stage, you just have to figure out what you need to cut, right? You just have to cut something to make this work, instead of just trying to stuff everything in as much as you can and get nothing out of it.
So let me ask you. So let me ask you this then.
Yes.
I mean, do you think it would have been better had they done it like? Do you think it would have been better if they did like The Hobbit, where they kind of split it up into 3 movies and they kind of thread the needle, or do you think it would have been better if they did it as a TV series like Fallout?
Either or, anything was better than what we got, right? Because I think the big thing, especially with the Borderlands series, right? You want to just be able to enjoy the world, right? A lot of it's world building, right? So I think about what made Fallout for me, and I think you would echo this as well. What made it just really good was you had this great amount of time just to be able to experience the characters, right? To understand the world, see everything that's happening with it, see how these characters interact with each other and how they're like kind of different backgrounds, make them who they are. In this, there's none of that. It is just like, hey, cool, here are these characters that right? Because these are all characters you can pick in the game. So it's like, cool, we're gonna have that. You're gonna bring out Atlas, who's one of the characters in the game or one of the big companies that are in the game. We have to have Claptrap, we have to have Tannis, and it just becomes overloaded with just so much stuff. And I think they even were like, well, you know what? I guess that we'll just go ahead and include all the vault stuff because we're there anyways, and we're going to talk about the keys. And they're just like, well, we'll just have one of the characters have one of the keys to begin with, so we have less that we have to do. And it just didn't work for me. So I feel terrible that, like I said, if you're looking at this movie, I hope that doesn't deter anyone from going out there and enjoying or playing the games. I think they're a ton of fun. They have a very distinct style to them, which I think they try their best to capture with this. It just doesn't really work. And for me, like, God, some of the CGI just looked so bad. Like, it was so obvious that you could see, like, I swear I could see some of the green screen bleeding in behind them, just like with some of the stuff. It just looked bad. So I think it was just a total waste. And it's such a shame that, like I said, they're going to really strike out with this. And I don't foresee this really getting the type of an adaptation I think it could really utilize. So I think this easily could be like a Fallout level quality type of thing if given the right pieces. But unfortunately, this was not it.
I mean, it's a damn shame because Fallout and The Last of Us have garnered a lot of accolades. So so for them to take a well-known series like Borderlands and kind of do the exact opposite, it's a bit of a head scratcher, really. I mean, it's funny too that you should say that because in a way, not only did they rush the story, but they also rushed the production. That would also explain why everything about it was so bad, everything with the CGI and everything. I mean, would you also say they miscasted also some of the characters? Because I know we talked about Cate Blanchett as Lilith.
Yeah, I mean, Krieg is not even really a character, right? Like, he's just kind of there. I didn't really have a problem with Tina's character, right? I guess, especially when you're like a younger actress like that playing kind of this, kind of very boisterous, like almost, I don't say childlike because obviously she's like in her teens, but
well, she's very sassy. So
yes, yeah, right. So I didn't really have a problem with that. Now, Roland, once again, I didn't really get it, right? I didn't really understand, why they had, and geez, what's the guy's name? I'm so sorry. I'm totally blanking.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, thank you. I mean, it's just like, it's like that one joke, and it's just like, oh, haha, Kevin Hart's short. So now we're gonna like make his character. We're just gonna make fun of his character because he's short. Like, why? I don't understand that. It was awkward all the way through. None of it really worked well for me. So yeah, I don't really have anything positive to really say about it. So I mean, I do feel like there was I think that there was a vision that was there that could have been successful. I just feel like it was absolutely cut to hell. I think there just was too much that was cut out of it to just like barely squeak it by with this 90-minute runtime. And I think if this was, maybe 30 minutes longer or you try to do more with it, I think that there's more there. I'd be curious if there was ever kind of a quote unquote director's cut or something different that comes out with this that maybe gives us kind of more of the full story that I feel like was missed.
Well, I mean, we'll just have to, wait and see next year. But go ahead and let us know down in the comments below what you think of Borderlands, if you enjoyed it or if you thought it was a stain on the franchise. And as always, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next review. Bye.